Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker, shills, death slayers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome, and let's go to Panama. That's right. I'm going to be the 200,000th video on YouTube about the Panama Papers. But what the hell? I'm going to give my spin on it, which is I'm not sure what the story is because, as many people have pointed out, a lot of this stuff has a history. In fact, the documents we're even talking about have been around for a year. And the other thing is the fact that we've known for 10 or 20 some odd years, if not more, that there's been these tax havens, which technically are not illegal. And the fact is, some of them are actually used legitimately to protect money from all kinds of hacking and crime and that sort of thing. And I think that's legitimate. But they also one of the things that's interesting about this is the fact that we have this one law office in Panama. And granted, they operate on a pretty large scale. I was surprised to find out that they have offices, 500 employees, and offices all over the world, including in Nevada. And the fact that they also do $42 million a year as a law firm, which is not unheard of. So, but what it tells us, of course, is that there's a lot of tax havens out there, and this is another one. The British Virgin Islands have 40% of the overseas tax havens, Cayman Islands. Swiss banks, we know that Swiss banks have been doing tax havens for quite some time. In fact, there was a controversy quite some years back about that. And we also know that the big United States, too big to fail banks and big European banks have all been involved in helping their clients hide money. So this is hardly a revelation. And a couple of those banks are even indicated again: Credit Suisse, HSBC, and also we have the City of London. The City of London itself and the banking sector in England, of course, is involved in all sorts of overseas tax havens. And in fact, we have a new culture of tax havens right here in the United States, Delaware being one, where you don't have to really reveal the corporate trail. And so it's become a tax haven. But there's a whole new tax shelter industry that's growing up in the United States, and I'm going to do a separate video on that. But so we have this new revelation. Of course, it's being called the greatest leak in world history, which of course doesn't mean jack shit, because the LIBOR scandal was supposedly the biggest financial scandal in history, and really nothing happened, and it's still going on. So I take that with a grain of salt. But we have 2.6 terabytes of data leaked by Mossack Fonseca law firm in Panama, and a very interesting organization. I'll attach some documentaries below on more of the history, or articles and documentaries below about more of the history, because they do have quite a big history. So 1 million documents, 40 years, going back 40 years, and so far something like 143 politicians from 50 countries and 72 current heads of state have been implicated in this. And most notable, of course, is the recent resignation of the Prime Minister of Iceland. Ironic, considering they were one of the few countries to prosecute the bankers and put them in prison, and yet we have someone like that who's even part of a scam. So what does that tell you about the world? And I do believe that this has a lot of potential to be a hit piece, because there's no big U.S. names, and it pretty much rubs the nose in the rest of the world. And the maps show this conclusively, and it has to do with leaders in Iceland, Argentina, Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Russia, Australia, Spain, China, Pakistan. So probably an interesting list of targets. Another reason why you could suggest that this was a hit piece is because the leak is managed by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, part of the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. So one of the problems, of course, is that it's financed by the U.S. government through U.S. aid, and then it's some sort of international consortium of investigative journalists, which, of course, if they're sponsored by governments and corporations, they're certainly not investigative journalists, something we don't really see in the world anymore, except in the alternative press. But and then the funders through the U.S. government, U.S. aid, of this journalist organization are the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, the Rockefeller Family Fund, the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and Soros Open Society Foundation. So the fact that this is being particularly targeted to everyone outside the United States, and then it has to do with this group and this kind of funding certainly is more than suspicious. Particularly the attention that all the story about Putin is getting, where certainly it smells funny, but it's the same kind of thing that everyone else in the world apparently is doing. And like I say, some for legitimate reasons. They transfer these accounts to friends and family, and in fact, a lot of middle class people find ways to shelter their money as well. Certainly not to this extent, but still. And also, one of the damning things about this revelation is that shows that this firm helped people and companies blacklisted by the U.S. government, including Mexican drug cartels, Hezbollah, and North Korea. And I don't know why that would be a surprise to anyone either, because we've also found out once again that all the big banks in Europe and the United States were involved in money laundering for terrorist groups and drug cartels. So we're just learning that it, from a different source, something we already knew. And there's 21 to 31 trillion supposedly dollars out there in hidden tax havens, but of course, since nobody really knows, it could be 10 times that. And one of the more damning things is that, once again, it just shows that the governments all over the world who are supposed to be overseeing and fighting this corruption are all part of it. And that's why we see this game go on. That certainly explains why we've known about all these tax havens for decades. Just in the last 5 years, I'm sure I've done 2 or 3 videos on it, and the fact that it still goes on, and it'll still go on in spite of this so-called biggest scandal in world history, or whatever the hell they're calling it. But it also shows once again that just like we've gotten confirmation from everything that's happened in the last 7 years, the world, especially the elites and the players out there, the big wheelers and dealers, they're all involved in bribery, fraud, and corruption, financial crimes, manipulating markets, election fraud, and sweetheart secret real estate deals. And so this Panama Papers certainly reveal more of that. So, I guess it's good to have more confirmation of what we already know, so that we don't have any right to bitch about it when it keeps going on and on and on. And then we get to the heart of it, because a lot of this has to do with political opportunism, and that's why we see the United States not being indicted in that, and that's why we're just going to see Obama give this lip service like he's been giving it this issue since he's been in office. And I don't mean to pick on him, because Bush did the same thing, and the predecessors before them did the same thing, and also goes on all over the Eurozone, as we know. It's hard to believe that the governments in Europe could actually be more corrupt than the ones in the U.S., but boy, they're sure giving us a run for our money. I'm a useful idiot, don't you be one too?